June 20th, 2018, it's date night, and Janet and I are in the audience at the Alberta Rose Theatre. My hand wrapped around her hand while the Trash Can Sinatras are in front of us singing You Made Me Feel, a song that meant so much to me almost 30 years ago. The song to me back then was about figuring out who I was going to be as an adult, living away from my parents for the first time. And to see You Made Me Feel played live after all these years felt the way I did back then, but shot through with the love I feel for her, from my kids, my family, now. The next morning when I played it again, the new performance of an old song, there I was in the mirror with the wrinkles around my eyes and the gray hair turning white. I might teach young people, but I'm no longer a young man. I'm a man with his feet firmly rooted in middle age, but I feel like I did back in my last year of high school, when I was still living with my parents, unsure of what step life was going to throw at me. The cycle was complete. You Made Me Feel starts with a single strum of a guitar and words that start the push and pull of confidence and self-sabotage. So typical, a battle of wits, and I've come half prepared, oh. And that push and pull was where I was back then. This mix of belief and self-doubt. I say belief because confidence was something I not only didn't have, but couldn't even see myself having. But the song and its lyrics about journeys and battles gave me this idea that I could build up this new part of myself. If I could just get out and move somewhere completely different for a while, a week, a summer, anything. This new me would be kickstarted by the place I had to leave. Miami wasn't doing it for me. All the years of wanting to be somewhere, anywhere else, and I was about to finally flee the god-awful state of Florida and on to the next stage of my life. And this stage was England. You made me feel I was born again. That's a shame I never grew up. I was going back to the country where my mother was born, the home of bucolic countrysides, thick stout, wool sweaters, and beards. There was an opportunity to live with a family for a summer, to work in a factory in the north of England, in Leeds. I've been dreaming about living in England for years, ever since those trips to my nan's house when I was small. But there was this one TV show that gave me the vision of what it would be like to be young and living in England. My parents had these VHS tapes of the classic BBC sitcom Rising Damp. On the show, 2 college students lived in squalid conditions while an old, shabby racist ran the place. I saw myself as one of the young people starting their lives out, maybe the character of Alan with his gorgeous long hair. The show took place in Leeds, the same part of England I was going to live in. Rising Damp means water damage that eventually destroys a house. The old dark wood paneling on the show's set walls was full of dimly shots of the old bedsits, dark walls, dark furniture, dismal curtains. Rising Damp was the water condition, but it was also how the culture of Britain was changing in the 60s and 70s. How one generation's rot with another generation's revolution. Rising Damp, the decay spreads when change doesn't happen fast enough. Rising Damp, the show, is about the cultural shifts England was going through and is still going through. It's about the young people building a new foundation in an old country. But Rising Damp wasn't all about political upheaval and the culture wars. There was joy amidst the darkness. There was laughter, too. I don't know if I got more into Rising Damp after I made the plans to go to England, but I know that after I made the plans, the show was all I watched, dreaming of living in that distant but oddly familiar world of England. In 3 months, I would go from living in Miami, the place I'd lived since that town was thrust onto me back in 1980, a place I never really felt like home, to graduating high school, to moving to England. Then after I came back, I'd be heading to college in South Carolina. But before I could graduate or go to England, I had to tackle my senior year. The year I took a break from being a good student. The year after my junior year, where I'd spent 1 month in a mental hospital. My senior year was going to be different, I decided. I wasn't going to be that sad guy anymore. One day during my senior year, I walked out of my environmental science class to the parking lot, drove home, poured vodka into half of a large fast food soda cup, mixed Sprite with the rest, drank half of it, and went to school. The cowboy boots the assistant principal wore in his office later on that day after I got caught were black leather, and I swear they had little red roses stitched into the seams. Those roses were all I could look at. I couldn't look at the principal in the eye, only at the boots that seemed so ill-fitting for Florida. Those boots and how hard the heels hit when they landed on his desk, how there was a little bit of Texas casual when he said, "Vodka will kick the shit out of you, son." Like he and I were the same age. The year I skipped school, walked out of my hippie environmental science teacher's classroom, the one who made us One day line up with Iron Butterfly's full 16-minute version of Inagata Davida blastings. Each of us walked up to the pot of dirt, earth she called it, held out her own personal-sized cup of earth in our cupped hands, just so we'd have what she described as a tangible connection to earth. After I walked up to the ceremonial pot, after I cupped the ceremonial earth and dropped it back into the ceremonial pot, I walked over to the back door and slipped out. She didn't notice and I didn't care. All the broken pride of no more Mr. Nice Guy. Mr. Nice Guy was what landed me in the mental hospital the year before because I tried to kill myself. A month away, and when I came back to my old school, they called me psycho, and after that I switched schools. I went back into the swim of the public school system and all the potential shortcuts. The old school, the private school, wasn't me. Neither was anywhere, but that didn't stop me from pushing as many boundaries of right and wrong as I could. And now I've swallowed my pride. I promise you I couldn't eat another word. So senior year, I took a break from being depressed. I got off the little yellow pills that made every meal taste a dreadful beige, made me tired all the time, life with filters on. I wanted to feel good no matter how temporary, and my dad had plenty of extra liquor bottles. I guess me slurring my words when I put my fist too hard down on the block of the science desk and declared, "I have a pass!" tipped off the powers that be. My teacher sent me to the principal's office. Those cowboy boots and those red roses on them, the slick smile at the side of his face that made me think for a second I might actually get away with it. I got 5 days of outdoor suspension. My parents were beside themselves. I did feel bad. Mom was already a warrior. Now she hardly ever slept on account of what sort of business I was up to at 2 a.m. if I'd make it home alive. Being caught coming home to school drunk earned me some sort of sick high school celebrity. Meant wherever I went, in or out of school, I was known as that guy who came to school drunk. I wasn't going to win any academic contests, but it felt good to be known for something, anything, good or bad. There were some negative sides, though. I lost my spot on the theater team. And we were going to state for a performance. Acting was the one thing I did right in high school, and I fucked that one up. But here's the thing. It felt good being a fuck-up, at least back then. To take that feeling head on, to be a good actor and earn that status. My dad had called me a fuck-up for so many years, and I was finally ready to accept all the roles and responsibilities that being a fuck-up meant. When you burn down your life, sooner or later, you're going to need to restart, and that's where the Trash Can Sinatras came in. The words to You Made Me Feel came fast, storming out of the singer's mouth. The lyrics were half plays on words. That way of speaking spoke to an ancient part of me. I'm losing my grip and sailing the ship from Barstool to Barstool and back. The song had that English familiarity to it, and it brought back memories of Nana's house back when she was still alive. Memories of England, 1983, Wham on the radio, curry houses, and Return of the Jedi. Trash Can Sinatras have a combination of lowercase a's when I see it written down. It's a nonsense band name, but I see that band's name like a mirror. You see that band's name what you want to see in yourself. Once the opportunity came up to start over and live in another country, in that final summer, I spent months making room for England in my life. And You Made Me Feel it was the dream that eventually became a reality. You made me feel I was born again. It's a shame I never grew up. I'm a boy at sea, and I'm slowly scared that my friends see the man beneath the mane. After I got busted, I straightened out. Well, just a little bit. I went back to school. I stopped stealing my father's liquor bottles. I apologized to the environmental science teacher for walking out of the class. I scrubbed her dirty aquarium tanks for 2 weeks every day after school. I got my act together. All the seasons that never happened in Florida, fall to winter to spring to summer, all those months of Trash Can Sinatras and rising damp and all of the same day in, day out heat and humidity. And when the completion of those 4 seasons without seasons came, the moment my mom thought I wouldn't be able to do, which was to graduate. All that time of being a kid, and I was about ready to pack up and venture out. And I was all ready for it, couldn't wait to get out of my own. But secretly, this thing I'd waited for also scared the crap out of me. I'd sit in my room and listen to You Made Me Feel and think about what it was going to be like to find a life outside my parents' world, to find myself in another country. Would I fall in love with some version of Tess the D'Urberville style? Would I find some leftover Victorian countryside, some mossy country house I could walk through? Would I come back changed, married? Would I come back at all? I certainly didn't see the version of myself who sat there with my wife and saw the band play the song live at the Alberta Rose Theatre almost 30 years later. I see him now, the kid I was back then. All of that anger and energy. I still see him in there, in me now. I hold him close. He had so much to learn. Those months and getting closer to the date when my parents dropped me off at Miami International Airport, when I landed in Heathrow, usually so chaotic, but I knew where to go. I'd been practicing all my life for this. The plane leads, the rain on the tarmac of London, the song on my Walkman, the last line in the song. I bid you farewell. I'm going, gone. I landed in London, Heathrow, and again in Leeds, where my host father picked me up. He had a suit on, white shirt, black tie. He likes to put songs on the radio and snap his fingers. He had a way of being positive, of living in the moment, a smile that showed he was smiling through the pain. There was a lot I could learn from him. We drove to his house, our house. He showed me to my room upstairs, told me to help myself to the beer in the fridge. I opened up a can with a black bear on it. I put it down on the lace of the side table in my room. The mom, she passed away a few years ago. This might have been the room she died in. I went to sleep. Woke up and went for a walk. I wanted to lose myself in wandering, to blend in but stick out amongst the faces of people I passed. I was half asleep, half dreaming from the jet lag. The things were familiar, but so different. The speed at which things traveled, buses, kids in school uniforms, so much brick and smells, petrol and sweets down by the corner shop. Smells I hadn't smelled since childhood. But with all the new stimuli hitting me as fast as I could walk by it, there was this new feeling that started in my chest and lifted up to my head. This feeling was hope. Hope that who I was before wouldn't hold me back anymore. Hope that I could lose myself in the slipstream of this new place, this new culture. Hope that in all of this new hustle and bustle, I could find a new me. Thank you.